Thank you for selecting my SQL Server 2014 Express playlist. The point of this video series is speed, brevity, and clarity. The goal is, in around 10 minutes, you have the outline to complete the lesson. Many videos will have a blog post or a GitHub file to go with it. You can find the links in the video's description below. In this video, I'll use 07 joins and more SQL file from GitHub, and you'll see all the SQL on the screen. In today's video, we're going to cover joins, inner joins, outer joins, cross joins. And what is a join? A join is the way to tie different tables together through a related value. We covered primary keys in the past. We talked about identity and automatic sequencing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, that value for that field can be put in another table as a foreign key, and then you can tie the two together. So the simplest example would be the address table. We can use its state ID to look up the state code and state name from the state table. So joins use set table definitions to link data together. That's what I'm talking about when I say foreign keys and primary keys. And there are different kinds of joins. There's inner join, a left outer join, a right outer join, a full outer join, and a cross join. These are in addition to the examples that I showed you last time, like intersect. So let's take a look at a few examples. Let's go up to File, Open, File, and you're going to want to download from my GitHub account the appropriate file called Joins and More Joins, 07 Joins and More Joins. Or you can just look at the text here and type it in yourself, whichever you prefer. So we're going to open this file. Once this file is opened, what we're going to do is change the name of the database to be the contact database. That's very important. You can do it one of two ways. First way is you can change the drop down. Second way, if there's a long list later, you can say use contact db and the go statement. Executor F5 changes to the right position. We're good to go. So let's take a look at some things. So we have this Fonda, Ridgely, and Ocean City, where the state ID is 33 for Fonda, it's 21 for Ridgely and Ocean City. If we look over here, 21 is Maryland and 33 is New York. So the first example we're going to show you is an inner join that returns the state code for the state right from the address. So I'll run all three and we'll take a look at it again. So if we're just looking at the address by itself, all the addresses in the address table, there's only 3, and we can't find the state by itself. The state table, of course, has all the states in it, but I've looked at it ahead and looked up 21 and 33, and we can see that they're Maryland and New York. Now we want to tie them together so that the state code comes back in the right place. And that's where this statement right here knits them together by using primary keys and foreign keys together in the right way. So the trick is to take a look at the alias. See this address here and the state here? Address is an A, state is an S. So we're taking the state ID in the state table, which is the primary key, and joining it or linking it to the address's foreign key called state ID. And that's how we're able to display the address information except for this right here, which is the state code coming from the state table. And that's where you get the state codes filled out. So next up, example number 2, is using that same inner join, but with a group by. So in this case, let's say we wanted the counts of all the addresses in all the states. So that's what this does. It uses a group by statement on the state code coming from the state table, and it says list all the states that are used by addresses and give me a count of those addresses. And that's where the count parenthesis asterisk parenthesis comes in. And I gave it a name called address count. And we have 2 Maryland addresses and 1 New York address. So we also have people. So let's take a look at the people. We have 3 people with the last name of Wade. So let's go see, using an inner join again from the address and the state, how many of those are in Maryland. We have 2 addresses in Maryland, 10100 Ricetown Road in Ridgely, Maryland, and 76 Ocean Drive in Ocean City, Maryland. So what we're going to do is we're going to knit them together. So let's take a look at them. So we have the three people that are related to each other with the last name Wade, and we have two addresses. So we're going to divvy up the addresses. Let's have the Mark Wade live in Ocean City, Maryland, and Alex and Bobby can live in Ridgely, Maryland. So how do we do that? Well, earlier, that we created, we open this up, look at our tables, an address, a person address, and a person. So, or to say it another way, these people connect to these addresses using the person address table. So we have these person IDs and these address IDs, and we want to populate the person address table with those keys as foreign keys. So this 1223, let's take a look at it. Person address. This person address is not an identity, so we have to fill it out. I can show you how to edit it, make it identity, but for now we're going to fill them all out. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in this case, I'm referring to 1, 2, and 3 as the person address ID, because we're going to insert 3 records. So the first one's the person ID of 2. Person ID of 2 is Mark Wade. And 3 is an address ID. And address ID 3 is 76 Ocean Drive, Ocean City, Maryland. So we're going to make Mark Wade wired up to Ocean City. So let's run this and see what we get. There's Mark Wade, now associated with Ocean City, Maryland. Huzzah! Now, we're going to add 2 more. And the 2 more we're going to add is the 2 people that are living in the same location. So Alex and Bobby are going to be in Reisterstown. So we get 11, a 12, and a 2. So look over here, 11, a 12, and they both have 2s. Those rows have executed. Come back down here, and we should see 3 rows come back. And we do. Mark Wade in Ocean City, and Alex and Bobby in Ridgely. So that's how we've joined them together. Find the people without an address. So we found the people with an address using these inner joins, knitting together person to person address to state, so that we could retrieve the state code. Everything's building on itself. The prior examples that we were looking at, all we're doing is adding a little bit to them or changing them a little bit each time for your comparison. So you might say, okay, who are the people that I got to worry about that don't have an address yet? And what this says is, give me all the people and connect to their person addresses. And here's this critical. PA person address ID is null, because we're saying wire up the person address to the person, and if the person address ID is not filled out yet, that's the one that we want. So all these people don't have addresses. Oh, did something wrong. There we go. Forgot to select the whole statement. Kind of important. There we go. All 5 back. Alex Ross, Bob Barker, Bob Big Boy, Reginald Byerly, and Clark Kent. So what have we seen? We've seen a left outer join. What about a right outer join? What if we wanted to find all the states with address counts? And we wanted to start from our address table. Then we could use a right outer join. A right outer join says, give me all the rows from the table on the right of the join. In this case, the table on the right of the join is the states table. So we're going to get all the addresses, connect them to states, but instead of inner join, we're going to use a right outer join. We're going to use a group because we want to get all the counts back. So let's take a look at that. Maryland, New York. We knew Maryland had 2 addresses, New York had 1, and all the other states plus DC don't have any. And that's how that comes back. So let's take a look at it. The S is from state. The count is counting the address state IDs, not the state IDs. If you had an S here, it would be wrong. It would not work. It would come back with 1s, and I'll show you that. See all the 1s? New York has a 1, just like everybody else. That's incorrect. That's not the goal. So we'll change that back to an A, because it's the addresses that we want to count. how many addresses for each state. And that's where the group by comes from. So the group by is grouping by state name. Could have used state code, but if we put state code here, we would have to put state code here. If we don't, it won't work. I'll show you how it fails. Put code in here, if I can spell it right, and it will fail. Invalid in the select list because not containing either an aggregate function or the group by clause. So if we put state code here, we have to put state code here and here. So let's do that. Now it's the code instead of the name. So, of course, I can use Control Z and go backwards. State name, can't spell. Oh, look, state name. Oh, that took the S off. I talked about the S versus the A. So which one do you have to be here to get it right? Do you remember? Does it have to be the S, which would count every one, and then ones would be in here, or the A? I'm betting the A. Let's see if I'm right. 2's, 1's, and 0's. Alright, so another example. Cross join. So we talked about an inner join, a left outer join, a right outer join. Now we're talking about a cross join. Let's say that we wanted to get every single state listed for every single person so you could have a count for the people and all their addresses. That's what this cross join can do. It sets it up for reporting. So here's Alex Ross, and if we look, he's going to come back 51 times because there are 51 states, or 51 states in DC. Now how about Mark Wade? How many times is he going to show up? 51. So 51 and 51 is 102. So if we go down to here, here's his last row, and etc., etc., etc. 4. If you look over here, 408 rows. The lower right hand corner, it tells you the rows that come back. So another example, full outer join. Find the orphans, people without addresses and addresses without people. So we're going to insert 13 for Idaho. And I made up an address, 66 Fish Avenue, Boise, Idaho, 83701. And this is an address not consumed by anybody. If we were to look at all of our addresses, I'm going to go up to the top for the scrolling. Apologize. We've got these 3 addresses. Fonda hasn't been used in New York, and now we're going to add another one that hasn't been used. That row's inserted. So we're basically looking for Fonda, New York, Boise, Idaho, and any of those people that we saw from the prior query that said Alex Ross and all these other people also don't have addresses. So these people, 5, don't have addresses, and these 2 addresses don't have any people. So this gives you the kind of set flexibility to interact with all these different tables as you grow and break up the tables. I'm going to finish in a second, but I want to just call out that you want to make one table per entity or per thing. You don't want to commingle them together because then it affects performance. You really want to what's called normalize, so that there's a kind of a one-to-one relationship between the objects you create in your programming language and the tables that you create in your database, and then you report off. So this concludes the end of this video. Let's move on to the next video. Thank you for watching.